Hi, good evening. Oh, actually, no, it's not. Wait, it's afternoon. Good afternoon, guys. Happy Thursday. It's almost Friday, which leads us to another F1 race week. This time we are in Silverstone. We're in Silverstone, where Verstappen has a chance to add another win to his resume on the season. Is it going to happen? Gotta see. I think practice starts tomorrow, so looking forward to that. Race on Sunday. But yeah, it's Max Verstappen era, and we are just living in it. Man, dude's a freaking beast. Maybe the car helps, but Verstappen himself, man, total dominance. But anyway, we're back with another terrible Thursday video. The F1 driver that was so slow, he got disqualified, which is crazy, because I think I do remember something like this happening before. I think I read an article about this, but couldn't really tell you. But on that note, shout out to my guy Joshua Bell. Let's go and let's get started. As always, don't forget to like the video and sub as well to the channel if you are new and if you do enjoy it. Anyway, let's get it.
Context is an important thing, but hardly anyone uses it nowadays. Screw it. It's fun taking things out of context, especially when it makes someone else look average. So if I were to tell you that there was a racing driver who was disqualified for driving too slow, you would think that he was the worst racing driver of all time, right? And according to a few online articles, he is. Well, now's the time to bring that boring context back into the room, because while this dude looks like an accountant that's been press ganged into a Soviet space program, he deserves a little more respect. Okay, so this guy's name was Al Peace, and he was Canadian.
Hold up. Al Peace. Hey, shout out to the name. Hey, the name hard. That's probably, I don't care. That's probably the biased, toughest F1 name in history. Al Peace. I mean, the Peace isn't really spelled right. P-A-C-E, but I do like the little different, spelling of the name. Very, very cool. Al Peace. Yeah. Al Peace. Jesus Christ.
And a unique one at that, because he wasn't actually Canadian. He was born in County Durham in the UK in 1921, where he spent most of his childhood. Not content with working in the mines or ballet dancing, he enlisted in the British Army, after which time he emigrated to the United States, where, upon seeing how free choice wasn't really a thing there, subsequently emigrated to Toronto, Canada. There he worked as an illustrator for 4 decades, and as a hobby, took up motor racing in the hope that he could find something about as dangerous as protesting outside of one of Michael Latifi's factories. Despite what you may be thinking, and yeah, I know what the title of this video says, this dude became a legend in Canadian motorsport, winning races and championships throughout the national scene throughout the 1950s and 1960s.
Oh, he was
also instrumental in the legalization of race car sponsorship, which, before he turned up, the Canadian motor racing body looked at as the devil's work. And he used this new freedom well when, in 1967, he entered the Canadian Formula One Grand Prix at Mosport Park, driving an American Eagle Mark I with Castrol signage spewed all over it, which, in and of itself, probably was the devil's work. But heading into this event...
Wait. American Eagle? Okay, I know American Eagle about like the whole clothing brand and stuff like that. I didn't know they had like their own like car, their own car team stuff like that. It's pretty cool. It's pretty cool. But you can see, man, he was pretty big in Canada. He did a lot of great things over there.
There was no reason to suspect that Al Peace's F1 journey would turn out to be horrendous. But, I mean, here we are now, so I guess we could step to it. 1967, Prime with a nice and shiny Canadian license, and at the ripe old age of 46, he qualified in 16th place, nearly 8 seconds off the pace. But perhaps more relevantly, he was nearly 7 seconds slower than the other Eagle Mark I in that field, driven by Dan Gurney. But comparing him to Gurney is a high bar, and he was using an engine that people were beginning to phase out at that point. Before the race started, things were looking on the up, as he was bumped up a position on the grid after Joe Siffert's car refused to start. Unfortunately for Al, his car also decided to join the not start party. It turned out to be a flat battery, and once his mechanics had swapped it out, he had lost 6 laps in the race.
Jeez.
So already, having not even set a lap in the he was 6 laps down. Making up for lost time, he started going hell for leather, at least by the standards of his anemic machinery. It was raining cats and dogs, and on a track like Mosport, that can make things perilous. Luckily for him, he didn't spin at the deadly turn 2, but instead he spun at Moss, at the top end of the circuit. Now, instead of driving away and getting back into the race, he just sat there. Why? Well, because his freaking battery ran flat again. He could have ended it there, but he didn't. No, not this guy. What did he do? He ran back to the pit lane. in the pouring rain, coming from the furthest part of the circuit to the pit lane to pick up a new battery, ran back to his car, swapped the battery out on the side of the road himself, and re-entered the race. I haven't seen this much determination from a Canadian since, well, no, that's it. That's the benchmark. Nothing.
That's crazy. Hey, I'm all for that commitment, man. My guy said, in his face. I ain't never seen anything like that. Talk about, I'm doing whatever it takes. Listen, my guy's like 6 laps down before the incident. Now my guy's probably like 18, 20 laps ago. I mean, listen, you're not really going to achieve anything except for just like finishing the race, but man, like that's
nothing compares. He got himself back into the race, but when all was said and done, he was 43 laps down. Which ain't exactly ideal. He came back the next year for another attempt, only to qualify nearly 16 seconds slower than the pole position time. But of course, there was an explanation for this. He thought that there was something amiss about the engine, so they tore it apart and found that an Allen key had wedged itself in there somehow. They took it out and, for some extraordinary reason, couldn't put the engine back together again. And a half-built engine doesn't work as good as a fully built one. Stands to reason, and ultimately that meant he could not start the race.
Oh my god.
This would no doubt have shattered morale, but that did not mean he would stop trying. He
69.
entered for a third time come the 1969 Canadian Grand Prix, still with the same machinery, only this time painted in yellow and sporting the number 69. Nice. Actually, that car had been living in a museum up to that point, which was appropriate given how much of a relative relic it was. And after seeing the qualifying times for the race, it was clear that that car had been taken from the museum against its will. Now, by this stage, he wasn't far away from turning 50 years old, and it was at this point that he was starting to become senile on the track. It didn't matter if you were battling
50 years
or coming
old.
up to lap him. He would fight you to the death, risking life and limb. Okay, maybe not that extreme, but it was well known that he would not make it easy. Think of him as the 1960s version of Roy Nissany. When you watch him drive, it's evident that his need for speed was different than others. And Sylvia Moser found this out the hard way when Elle showed him just how much it hurts to crash a car at Mosport. He was also noticeably slow, which Jean-Pierre Beltois found out when our hero decided to damage his suspension. And as an added bonus, he broke up a spectacular 5-car battle for the lead, acting like a 2-day troglodyte rookie on iRacing. He seemed to be one-upping his adventures. Perhaps to alleviate boredom, or else it was a grandmaster plan to eliminate every other driver in the field and cruise home to victory. But when world champion Jackie Stewart reared over the hill, Ken Tyrrell began to sweat profusely at the sight of his driver trying to lap our piece. He put it to the officials that this dude needed to be parked. And that's what they did. They black flagged him and forced him to retire from the race. The official reason given? For driving too slowly. To this day, he remains the only driver in the history of Formula 1 to be disqualified for driving too slowly. You'd imagine he would have retired from motorsport in shame, but instead, he kept on winning on the Canadian scene and was instrumental in further improving Canadian motorsport behind the scenes. He is legendary in that regard, but if you were to take his 3 Grand Prix starts, you'd think he was a complete fraud. But
I was getting ready to say, like, so bro goes crazy in the Canadian scene, but man, I guess like when it comes to, specifically F1, my guy is like, he's just not it. Like his issues were an engine. Like my guy found a piece in the engine and then had no idea how to put it back on. Like, is that why you don't have like a mechanical team to help you, engineering team to help you with that? Like, they put it on, like they managed to put it on. Now when you're disassembling, y'all don't know how to put it back on. That's tough. That's tough.
That would be unfair to him, much like it would be unfair to assume that Max Verstappen would leave you room if you tried to pass him. Still, that last race was damning, and on its own, probably merits
50 years old,
one of the worst drives in Formula 1 history. At the very least, however, we now realize the context behind his whole Formula 1 career. All 3 races of it. So now the next time you see one of those worst drivers of all time lists, and you invariably see his name there, you can at least say, it wasn't that
Yeah, I don't think it was.
Sorta.
Not really. It was. That was pretty, that was rough. Sucks for him though, man. You know. Hey, but I will say, my boy he was battling. My boy was battling. Like, to manage to leave a parked car on the side of the track, run to the pits, get your battery, and put it back in. Hey, man. I'm all for that. But as always, if that was me, I might as well just end the race. Anyway, and I hope you guys did enjoy the video. Don't forget to like and sub as well. Stay safe, stay amazing. Sunday, Silverstone. Peace.